Shamina, Rich, welcome. Shamina, what's the state of financial inclusion today, and where do you see data or tech playing the biggest roles?
Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. Look, I think the state of financial inclusion is on its way to financial security and financial health. What's happened is, over the last 10 years, Mastercard, along with many others, really invested in this notion of bringing people into the formal economy. So as the economy has gone digital, people entering the formal economy have gone digital. And now what's happening is we have to ensure that their experience with the digital economy is a good experience, because people who come in and don't trust the payment system are very tough to get back. So we're in a state of moving people from financial inclusion to security to health.
Why is all this so important?
So the reason why financial inclusion and this movement from financial inclusion to security to health is so important is because over the last 10 years, 1 billion people joined the digital economy. Over the next 10 years, 1 billion people are projected to join the middle class. So that's 2 billion more people who are participating in an economy in a way that is not moving from what we think of as maybe Western standards. So in the middle class in the United States, you might think of a 2-car garage and, 4 kids and things like that, and a steady income. These people who are moving into the middle class are actually moving from $4 a day to $14 a day. So even in that movement, because they are now participating in the formal digital economy, their consumption patterns are going to change. Focusing on education, focusing on leisure, focusing on things that don't necessarily mean they have to focus on the subsistence of day-to-day living. And that's why it's also so important to make sure that we're focusing on ensuring that inclusive growth is happening, that data is part of that transition, technology is part of that transition, so that this new middle class consumer can realize their full potential in the digital economy.
Rich, I want to focus on public-private partnerships. What makes them actually work? Not just on paper, but in people's lives.
I think you have to start with an alignment of goals. I think it's so important that each side is really committed to finding ways to work together to make it happen. And then you need complementary capabilities, the ability to bring something to particularly when the private sector can bring in insight, can bring analytic capabilities, can bring tools that the public sector just doesn't have and isn't capable of building. Then you end up in a place where you can bring a real opportunity. I think the topic we're talking about here, financial inclusion, is a perfect case. It's hard to find governments around the world that don't want to make sure their people have access to banking services, have ability to start to build some wealth, have access to be able to do purchases in an easy and transparent way. And so when you can take that goal that a government has, with often missing most of the capabilities to deliver it, and team it with Mastercard, and team it with sort of the capabilities that BCG can bring in terms of strategic and analytic insight, then I think you start to really put something together that can create a win-win.
If we want to make financial inclusion truly scalable, truly sustainable, what needs to change?
It's a great question. I think what I talked about earlier in terms of what's happening as people engage with the financial system, the formal financial system for the first time, the trust, the experience of engaging for the first time, or frankly the 100th time, has to be a positive one. So I think it's not necessarily what needs to change, but the reality is fraudsters have followed us and they're disrupting our digital lives. Whether it's you or me or our grandparents or anybody, nobody is immune to scams, frauds. And so I think that what needs to change, or what we need to start to really think about and focus on, is this notion of security and ensuring that we stay a step ahead of the fraudsters. So for me, I think this focus on security and the focus that we're taking on Mastercard, because we have things like AI and we have the data economy, is we also need to make sure that we're also delivering our excellence around cybersecurity.
Rich, what are your views?
Can I just echo that? It's amazing to me how much time you have to spend thinking about every email you get, every text you get, trying to figure out what's real and what's not. And then you take people who are just entering the banking system or are much less sophisticated, and what it must feel like to live in this world where it feels like you're sometimes swimming in shark-infested waters. And the ability to have partners and companies that can really help you navigate that, it's so important right now for people.
Rich, Shamina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.